My initial reaction is, holy cow. My second reaction is Schwartz the DC or not? That would help me accept it. If he's not, you're going to get an offensive coordinator and a defensive coordinator off the grid that we haven't been talking about. So let's see how the dust settles. But this indicates that Haslam was never comfortable with Shieldhouse, and he went against the recommendation of his search committee leader and GM. So you got to wonder about the future of Andrew Berry. They chose offense over defense, and they weren't comfortable with Shieldhouse.
So
this is all on Haslam.
And welcome in, everybody, to the Inside Edge Network. Chad Bryan to my right, your left. I'm Eli Moon. We just did a 7.5-hour marathon on the Cleveland Browns hiring their new head coach. If you're just now finding out, they hired former Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken as the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Chad, we broke down quite a bit of the Monken hire and everything, and it just seems still kind of surreal, everything going on. The Todd Monken hire, really quickly after that, we find out about Jim Schwartz not being happy in the building there in Berea, and he may not be here any longer. And as that clip that we played a few times earlier during that marathon, and we played here at the intro from Tony Grossi and ESPN 850 there in Cleveland, it just seems like Jimmy Haslam's running the show again. Before we get into all of that, though, want to ask you how you're doing, how we're feeling after that 7.5-hour just marathon, breaking down everything between Monken, Schwartz. I mean, what's this mean for the offensive side of the ball? What's this mean for the defensive side of the ball? Is Bubba Ventrone still in Cleveland? I mean, like, there's questions out there, Chad. But, I mean, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I took a little break there in the afternoon to hang out with my kids. I told you old age got me. I ended up falling asleep on the couch. It was a lot to go over earlier, and there are a lot of questions, and some of those have seemingly been answered. I mean, you heard Tony Grossi say there is Schwartz going to be the DC. Well, we probably know that now. That's not going to be the case, right? It sounds like he's and I even heard someone say that he completely cleaned out his office, and he's gone. So I don't know. I mean, you have to turn the page. You don't have a choice, right? You can't go back. This is what it is now. And yeah, it does feel like Jimmy Haslam put his hands in here and maybe meddled a little bit too much. Obviously, someone was either misled, a promise was broken, something happened behind the scenes that we don't know about, right? There's something that really upset Jim Schwartz to the point where he said his goodbyes, cleaned out his office, made a scene of leaving, storming out of there. Either that or like I said to you before, just a few minutes before we went live, it's all a ruse to get Hard Knocks back in here. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It seems a little bit like a mess, but
yeah,
I think I'm just trying to take the time and during the afternoon and early evening when I was kind of off and you guys were still on, I popped back in a few times to catch quite a bit of the coverage, and I was just trying to remind myself that we kind of have to let this thing play out, right? We don't have a choice, and I thought Ryan Moster made some really good points when he was on with TK and myself.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that, like, kind of everywhere that Todd Monken's gone, offenses have had some kind of resurgence, or somebody's had their best year, or in the Browns case, I mean, you had 2,000-yard receivers and a 1,500-yard rusher. A lot of things going on. And remember, if you're a Browns fan and you were here during the 2019 season, that was amidst just quite a bit of chaos and dysfunction. I know Jimmy Haslam won't like that word. Probably dislikes it as much as I like hearing him say comfortable. Whatever. There was just a lot going on in that locker room that was very divisive, right? Like, it seemed like, I mean, some people suggest, I told you that I've seen people suggest behind the scenes that maybe that locker room was fractured in three ways, not just, offense, defense, or, one side against the other. It was three different factions. I mean, I don't even know how that happens. But, again, those are rumors. I mean, we don't know. It's hard to really say one way or the other what that was like, but from the outside looking in, I think we saw a lot of dysfunction back in 2019. Quietly under the radar, here was Todd Monken's offense just chugging along, in a lot of ways, historically for the Browns. So I don't know. We just have to let it play out and see how it goes. Listen, they're going to bring in somebody to be the defensive coordinator. Obviously, he's going to bring in someone to be his offensive coordinator, and I think we just have to watch how the staff fills out. You mentioned Bubba Ventrone. We don't really know. We hired supposedly an offensive line coach today. So that's good, right? We're moving in a direction. What direction that is, I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's 2020. It's hard to forecast these things, but soon enough, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned there, Chad, obviously from Adam Schefter. I saw the report. ESPN's Adam Schefter had it to hire the Cleveland Browns to hire former Ravens offensive line coach George Warhop.
Yeah.
And I actually saw a quote from Joe Thomas mentioning that, besides Bill Callahan, there's really not many offensive line coaches that are better than George Warhop in this, last run, maybe the last 15, 20 years or so. So interesting enough, the Browns have been pretty bad as far as offensive line goes. Running the football, run blocking, pass blocking, any type of blocking right now has not been good for the Browns. So, I mean, this is a very, you're not going to get excited. You're not going to go tell everybody that the Browns just picked up George Warhop, right? But it could be a move we're looking back on after a year or two. You look at Bill Callahan, You look at Bill Callahan, though, and you look at how he really shaped some of these guys that are on the line right now for the Cleveland Browns. And that's something I would hope George Warhop can continue to do for the next era of linemen. Because, we talk about Joel Bitonio, we talk about Jack Conklin, we talk about these guys, they're getting older. And then you look at some of these other guys, DeJuan Jones, constantly seems to be injured. Jed Wills at one point was the replacement for Joe Thomas. And that's actually the worst word I could have used there, because there is no replacement for Joe Thomas. No. And Jed Wills, I really thought there was going to be more for him in terms of like what he was going to do here in Cleveland. We'll see. I guess we'll see. We'll just see what they can do with the line. Like you said, they got to get creative there with the offensive line. Do free agency, do the draft, do maybe a trade. Jimmy Haslam's not opposed to taking on bad contracts, so maybe we may have to overpay for a lineman or two. Chad?
Name an example of a bad. No, don't do that. I'm just kidding. I was going to press you on that, but yeah, they're all over the board. I think I think it's time to be patient. I mean, I know everybody's upset that, a lot of people wanted the new, flashy, whatever thing in Nate Shieldhouse, the Rams passing game coordinator. But, we don't know that would have panned out any better. I mean, I have very little, I hate to say this. Sometimes I have very little faith that the Browns are going to make the right decision. It doesn't matter who they hire. Like, you could bring in, I don't know, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy. I mean, the absolute, like, Harry Potter, I don't know, Dumbledore, whatever. You can bring in, like, the absolute troupe of, like, wizards, magicians, magic, and I still be like, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? It feels like no matter what they do, they end up tripping over themselves. And I think that's why a lot of people are upset, because it's this weeks-long coach search, and it seemed to drag on longer than, a lot of the fans wanted it to. For all we know, they were comfortable. Oh, I did it again. For all we know, they were okay with it behind on a few extra days or whatever, where it felt like we were going to have an answer on Monday and we didn't. Finally got the answer today, whatever. We just, again, it's hard to know what goes into that process. So it's hard to know where they were as far as decision making. Obviously, there was some kind of disconnect between, Jimmy Haslam, Andrew Berry, and Jim Schwartz. Something happened there that fractured that relationship and turned that sour. And I don't know. I mean, we said it before. We had an answer. Like we keep saying we don't know. And now that we have an answer, here we are, and we still don't know, right? We're gonna have to let it play out.
Yeah, and we talked a little before we got on the air here, Chad. About the situation with Jim Schwartz, right? And I don't think Todd Monken would have been the hiring of Todd Monken would have been met with so much disdain from Browns fans if it wasn't so quickly followed with Jim Schwartz is basically raising hell and leaving. He was very angry, and he's under contract, right? So that's another thing, Chad. You look at Jim Schwartz, and what's he going to do, right? I mean, I do wonder, and I don't mean that asking, like, truly, what are you going to do? That's what I mean. Like, are you going to put yourself in a position where you hold out? I mean, do you go sit out on the side? Like, I don't know what you do as a coach. We've seen defensive ends hold out. We've seen quarterbacks hold out for contracts. Jim Schwartz is under contract.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Defensive coordinator were held out. Do we?
I don't know. And it's like, and I understand where Jim Schwartz is coming from. So I can understand being disrespected by this franchise and everything. I also, I've had some time to think for the last few hours. I'm still maybe hopeful that they can figure this out. And maybe that's the optimist. Maybe Ryan Mosser has spoke the optimism into the rest of the Inside Edge network, because maybe they sit on this for a day or two. They call Jim Schwartz back to Berea, say, let's talk, and let's see what we can do. That's very optimistic thinking, because if I'm Jim Schwartz, I'm not going to lie, I'd probably be out of here too. But I guess like the tricky thing is like what I asked in Jim Schwartz's case, what exactly can you do, right? You're under contract. So you're either going to sit out for the rest of your contract with the Cleveland Browns, or you go coach his defense and continue to make a case for maybe a head coaching gig. I get it. He'll be over the age of 60, so it's a little bit tricky there, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think with Schwartz, I mean, again, someone said earlier that if anybody is willing to make it, so that it's messy, it's Jim Schwartz. He's willing to make it messy. I don't know what that looks like. It's already messy, right? The public, making a scene of leaving, that's already kind of messy. And like you said, now are we going to have a defensive coordinator hold out? And if so, how does that work? How does it work with hiring a different defensive coordinator if you have one on the staff and he's under contract? Is that like a weird league rules thing? I mean, I don't know. I mean, the NFL has some really bizarre rules sometimes, right? Can you have a defensive coordinator out there holding out and sign another one? Is that your money? I mean, what do you do here? What do you do now if you're the Browns? It's such a weird position that, of course, you see the Browns in for pretty much the first time, right? We've never seen this before.
Yeah, and that's what.
If you've seen it in the comments, let me know. I just don't recall ever seeing a situation like this before.
Yeah, especially not in Cleveland, at least, which is a rarity. Usually, crazy things happen in Berea before they happen in the rest of the NFL, if they're going to be crazy. But I guess that was my biggest question with Jim Schwartz is like, I respect his decision if he does want to leave, but like ultimately, what can you really do besides sit out or coach the team? That's where we're at, and I wonder if, Miles were to have a conversation with them, if Denzel were to have a conversation with them, maybe they can say, hey, coach, let's come back and let's rock out. Monken's going to get the offensive side of the ball together. Let's keep our defense side of the ball. And if you want to go pursue opportunities next year, we get it. That might be one of your last chances, because a lot of NFL teams don't want to bring in a 60-year-old as a head coach. So we get it. That's my thought, Chad. What do you think?
Well, and if you're watching, I want you to think about this question. I think this is a good question to ask yourself and to think about. You don't have to answer right away, Eli, if you want to think about it. But if you have a thought, you can chime in. But again, if you're watching, you just want to answer in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. So you're the Browns, and you're coming off a season where you're 5-12. Didn't work out.
Yeah.
All kinds of questions on the offensive side of the ball. You a bottom 5 defense in the league.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, bottom 5 offense in the league, top 5 defense. If you could flip-flop that a little bit, not completely, but let's say Jim Schwartz goes, and the defense suffers a little bit, but they drop down to a top 11 or 12 defense, and you can get the offense up to a top 13 or 14 offense. Now you've kind of got something, right? Like now you think you can turn that 5-12 into an 8-9 and 9-8. You're right there. You start to build from within in the draft. I mean, it doesn't have to be. We don't have to have the all-world best defense in the league, right? It's fun. It's certainly fun, and it's necessary when you can't score more than 20 points. I mean, how long did it take us to get to 20 points this season? But if you can get the offense back in gear where you're averaging 24, 25, 26 points a game, average numbers, right? Like whatever, low 20s, mid 20s. I think that you can. It's okay. You're okay with watching the defense slide back to top 10, top 11, top 12. Because I think if you would check a lot of the playoff teams from this year's playoffs, you have a lot of teams that kind of floated right in the middle, like a top 14 offense, top 15 defense, whatever. Not many teams in there are going to have a number 1 offense, number 1 defense, or both top 5 or whatever. We just don't see that very often. With salary cap and financial restrictions, it's nearly impossible. So you've got to pick a side of the ball to concentrate on. The Bengals are an example, an extreme example. The Bengals, I think sometimes would just be like, hey, we don't even care. Let the team score, and we'll get Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase back out there, and we'll try to just keep up with them. We're comfortable. I don't want to say comfortable.
Oh my goodness.
We're fine. 9 to 56.
We've been on the air for a long time here today. Once, I have like my eyes like watering from like telling me I need to go to sleep after we get off the air here tonight, which we're here with you for the next 45 minutes or so, everybody. So grab a nice beverage, and grab something to eat. If you're on the West Coast, it's about dinner time. So thanks for joining us here today. But Chad, yeah, it's interesting, the whole thing's just a mystery right now, because I don't think this Jim Schwartz thing is done. Like I said, a lot of things can change. Is it looking great for the Browns? Is it, no, it's not. You're going to lose your defensive coordinator. I get your point where if, he were to walk out, okay, if we can at least keep it top half of the league, maybe closer to that top 10 range, and the offense does come around, then we probably aren't talking too much about, the drop off. But that's also to say if Jim Schwartz doesn't leave and, or rather, let's say he leaves, right? Let's just break it down this way. He leaves and he takes Denzel Ward or Myles Garrett with him, and then the other one goes somewhere else. That's where it becomes a problem, is the collateral effect. Like the players that could just say, you know what, we're sick of you not really giving our side of the football the respect. Everybody wants to talk about the offense, getting the offense together. Meanwhile, the defense has been holding it down. I know to me and Double A had talked about, and to his point, there were lapses where the defense could have won the game. Just final stops this past season alone. Think about that Minnesota game. Yeah. There's times where they could have stopped the offense, and they didn't. However, the defense put us in position to win games when Dylan Gabriel wasn't even completing 20-yard passes. I almost passed out the game he threw his longest pass of like 21, 22 yards, and they were like, that was his longest pass of the season.
Yeah.
And he had been like 4 or 5 games as a starter.
And that was the pass that went out of bounds. No, I'm just kidding.
It doesn't make sense, Chad. It's like this whole thing. I guess that's why I keep saying, earlier was I don't know. Now it just doesn't make sense to me, because Jim Schwartz could really impact who stays and who goes on this defense. Shelby Harris, a free agent. A lot of these other guys, a free agent. Martin Emerson, a free agent. Yeah. So, I mean, these are guys that could easily tell the Browns, hey, if you don't respect, who we wanted as head coach, then you don't respect us, and you don't respect what we've done to keep this team at least somewhat afloat. And that's what it comes down to. So I'm disappointed in the Browns today. That's my feeling. That is not necessarily how everybody's feeling, I'd imagine, in Cleveland, but I'm disappointed at least. And I hope this, I'll say this. If Schwartz does decide to come back in the next 2 days, Chad, like let's say by the weekend, by Friday, this news breaks that Jim Schwartz is going to come back to the Browns.
Okay.
Then I feel a lot better about this.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel great. Yeah.
I will say I'm cautiously optimistic. But on the other hand, it's the Browns. So I guess that's where the caution comes from. But, it's like if another franchise made this move, I don't even want to say the Patriots struggled for a couple of years. They were down. If the Patriots made this move, or the Chiefs, if the Chiefs were doing this in this offseason, you'd go, yeah, I mean, this will probably work. They'll go 11-6 or 12-5 next year and be back in the playoffs. But it's the Browns, so you expect another 3-14, because everything the Browns do tends to bottom out on them.
Yeah, not great. But like I said, Ryan Mosser, he gave me some optimism. I went back and I heard the clip. You can go check it out if you're wanting to follow us. You've been here on the coverage all day. Thank you for choosing the Inside Edge Network as your source of everything sports, entertainment, and mental health, everything in between. We are your source for the good stuff, man. So with that being said, give us a follow, Inside Edge Net, on all the socials. Stay locked in here with us. I did get a text from our program director, Double A Anthony Alford, who let us know that Myles Garrett has went on social media. He's went on Instagram about a half hour ago, 37 minutes ago, and he put a picture out. We'll see if we can get this loaded in during the break. But just a defeated man, it seems, Myles Garrett right now, and that is not a good thing to see if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, with Media Row coming right back around the corner here, and we remember how it looked last year. So that's not positive. And Chad, just to go to the comments here, we have David-J4V3U saying, this was all avoidable. And, he said change for the sake of change rarely works. So
I would agree with that. I think you have to have a pointed plan, when you're going to make change, when you're going to make changes. And I don't know that the Browns had that. I think it was just like, fire Kevin. That's not working out. That's fine. Fine. Stefanski's gone. Understandable. Okay, it's fine. 8-26 over the last 2 years. That's not acceptable, right? When you have this much talent on the team, at least defensively, because we know the offense is it's an albatross right now. But yeah, I think the Browns maybe. I think you're right, David. I think Haslam and the Browns and Andrew Berry just kind of went into this. Well, we'll do some exploring, right? We'll see what we can find, and whoever catches our eye, that'll be the next thing. And it sounds like there was even some disagreement maybe between Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam. We don't know. I mean, there's speculation all over the place that no one's happy, right, internally. And I think that's where some of that knee-jerk reaction comes from. It's like, well, listen, my favorite players and coaches aren't happy about this. Why am I happy about it, right? Like, what about you're telling me to be optimistic and you're telling me to let it play out. But, I mean, the guys that I like to watch in orange and brown on Sunday aren't willing to let it play out. Why should I let it play out? And I completely understand that. I get it. But I think we just don't really have a choice. Where whatever's going to happen is going to happen regardless of what you, I, and any other fan or any other podcaster, any other media personality. It doesn't matter what we think. This is going to play out the way it's going to play out. Myles Garrett is not going to base his decision on something that we say here tonight on there, or at some point during the 7.5 hours of coverage of the Browns head coach search that we did today on the network. I don't think he's going to leaf through that and say, hey, listen, these two guys, man, Eli and Chad, man, they really want me to stay, and I get this is best for my career, but whatever Eli and Chad want, man, that's what I'm down for. If he says that, listen, you're welcome, first of all.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. No,
they don't care about us, and I don't mean that in an offensive way or in an inflammatory way. These guys they don't care about the fans at a certain point. They do. They want to make you happy, but then there also comes a point in their life and their career where they have to do what's best for them, right? And you can't blame them for thinking that way. I mean, we certainly don't make decisions based on Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward in our lives. So I don't know. I mean, you just can't blame them for being alarmed or being worried or whatever, right? Like they're human beings. They want the best for their career, for their whatever.
Yeah.
If they feel like Jim Schwartz leaving doesn't do that, doesn't give them the best opportunity, then they may want out, and not much we can say about it.
And, even a guy like Denzel Ward, we keep bringing up a guy who spent his entire football career in Ohio. I mean, Nordonia, over to Ohio State. And then, you look at now Cleveland Brown, his entire NFL career. I mean, maybe he wants to change the scenery. I mean, maybe he didn't want it necessarily, but certain decisions like this that unfolded in Berea today could lead somebody to, like Denzel Ward, to look at a contender that needs a shutdown corner
at a job. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm sure if you're watching, whatever, Eli, you, me, anybody watching, I'm sure we've all had a moment at a job where it's just like, okay, that's it. That's it. They've shown me how they truly feel about me. Nothing I can do here is ever going to change that. Nothing they can do is ever going to make me feel better about it. The relationship's fractured, right? Like trust is gone, and you want to leave that day, and then it gets blown out of proportion, I think, in the NFL world, because there's 32 teams, right? There's 32 defensive coordinator jobs. When someone leaves their job in a huff, you see it. It's news. When someone leaves their factory job in a huff because they're not getting the overtime hours they need, we don't really think about that. But these guys are human too, right? I think they're just, I don't know. They're human.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason. I mean, it's already started, but really feels like it hasn't truly begun yet, because we don't really know who's going to be on the offensive side of the football, who's going to be on the defensive side of the football. Tons of questions. David did chime back in here. We want to bring him back to the screen here. He said, I don't think it's practical to trade Myles or Denzel due to the way their contracts are structured. To do so would signal a total teardown, Chad. And David, thanks for chiming in here and watching here. You chimed in earlier, so thank you so much for your support and for everybody out there. But to answer that question, or that statement rather, just a rebuttal is, yeah, it would signal a teardown, but at this point, if the guys want out, what else can you really do? They're either going to sit out or, in Miles' case, he has a no trade clause, so he can decide where he wants to go.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that he's untradeable. It means he can tell the Browns, I'm going here and here only. So he may be a little bit more tricky to trade in terms of the value you can get. But Denzel Ward, you might be able to, because there's been good business throughout the entire career there with Ward and the Browns, you might be able to have a conversation with him and get some value out if you were to have to go there. Now, Chad and I and the Inside Edge Network are not telling the Browns to get rid of Denzel Ward and Myles Garrett. It just seems like with the possibility of Jim Schwartz leaving, and right now that is very, very strong possibility, who knows what the ripple effect looks like. That's the biggest thing. So it's going to be interesting, Chad. We have talked quite a bit of Cleveland Browns. I think we're going to put the bow on that. For now. Do you have any final thoughts on Monken?
Let me ask you this just really quickly before we do that, before we move on. We talked about how one of the ways the Browns could create some cap space was to have a guy like Denzel Ward restructure his contract. Don't know that that's on the table anymore now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think these guys on the defensive side of the football are going to go do the Browns any favors right now, based off how the Browns have treated the defensive side of the football. We got one more chimed in here from Detroit_Gemini. Thanks for tuning on in. She said, Denzel Ward isn't going anywhere. Neither is Myles. And we sure hope so, Gemini. We hope so.
We hope they stay right here. Yeah.
We're with you. So thanks for chiming in. And yeah, I mean, we hope that Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, and even Jim Schwartz is back after this, debacle that happened in Berea today. But nonetheless, Chad, Todd Monken is our new head coach of the Cleveland Browns. We had a lot more questions to answer. We'll talk about that tomorrow on Thursday topics. We're gonna have a 2-hour, I think, episode. I think we're gonna try to do 2 hours Thursdays, and then just moving forward, we're gonna try to get on here and do an hour of every night, just recapping the stories that may not have broke at 4 or 5 o'clock, but 9:30, right before we get on air, and we'll go over those with you guys as well. So Thursday topics tomorrow. We'll probably at some point the Browns will come up, but we'll talk about a plethora of other topics. But we're going to put a bow on it for now, Chad. Does that sound good to you?
Let's do it.
Okay. We're going to put a bow on the Browns situation for now. We're going to take a quick pause, regroup. Everybody out there do the same. Go grab a refreshment. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers played the Lakers. The Lakers came all the way from Los Angeles to Cleveland, and LeBron James returned home in an emotional tribute earlier on in the game. And potentially this isn't the last time LeBron plays in Cleveland, but maybe this time not in a Lakers uniform. We'll have a conversation about that. We'll also talk about the Greek Freak. He seems the one out of Milwaukee. That is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Those stories to come. We're going to talk NBA to close out this last hour of coverage here on the Inside Edge Network. Browns hired Todd Monken, former Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator. When we come back, we will discuss the Cavs because you know what? They're doing all right now, so we're excited to talk about them. Cavaliers, Chad Bryan, Eli Moon, Inside Edge Network, back after this. And welcome back to the Inside Edge Network, everybody. My goodness, it's been a long day. But yes, this is the Inside Edge Network. That is Chad Bryan to my right, your left. I am Eli Moon. And Chad, we've had a heck of a day, and it sounds like you're having a heck of a evening here, my friend.
Yeah, it all goes down, man, at the same time. Got some family stuff happening over here, but it's okay. I'm going to finish up the last few minutes with you, and then I'm going to let you steer the ship for the rest of the show. Ordinarily, I would be with you for the entire hour. But there's a thing. When you have kids, there's always the thing, man. So.
It's all good. It's all good. We appreciate you, and we're going to jump right into the next discussion here. I do want to just get your thoughts here real quickly on the Cleveland Cavaliers. They did defeat the Los Angeles Lakers tonight, but the big story was before the game from Dave McMenamin from ESPN that the Cleveland Cavaliers are open to a LeBron James reunion. Whether that means the trade deadline or the offseason, just signing him, we'll see. But gladly would welcome a LeBron James reunion, is what Dave McMenamin had said. And yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously LeBron didn't look thrilled during points of the game tonight. The Cavs handled business. Would you welcome LeBron James back to Cleveland? And if so, are you okay trading for him and giving up assets to acquire him this season to make a push for a finals run?
I would have to see those assets, right?
Yeah.
I gotta know what I'm gonna give up because I see comments rolling in on this. The answer's very, very distinct there. I don't know. I just think I'm willing to him coming here as a free agent to finish his career in Cleveland. I have no problem with that. I'll be honest with you, and I see the comments on him, but I don't really understand all the LeBron hate. I mean, you probably have so the first run of LeBron being in Cleveland was likely the third best run of basketball in Cleveland Cavs history. And then the second time here was probably the first. That was the best run of basketball in Cavs history, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with any of that. I mean, 4 straight finals trips, a championship. The guy did everything that he promised to do coming back. I know we were a little bit. Well, I'm watching all the comments rolling in. I'm seeing them. We can put them up if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen,
have you watched him recently? He's not good anymore, says David. Chad.
Well, but how old is he right now? He's 41 years old. Is that right?
Yeah.
Let me pull up the numbers right now. I mean, he's averaging 22 points a game. He's just a little over a half a block a game, over a steal, 6 assists, 6 rebounds. So 22, 6, and 6 at 41 years old. I think, David, I have to disagree with you. I think that's pretty impressive. He probably doesn't have the same first step that he had. He doesn't have the same explosiveness that he had the first time he was here, or when he was in Miami, or even when he came back to Cleveland. Maybe he was a quarter of a step slower that second time in Cleveland, but still good enough to get the Cavs to 4 straight finals and to single-handedly will them to some wins along the way in the playoffs. For me, it's and maybe for me, I guess it's about just the guy was born and raised around here, right? Drafted to the Cavs, put the Cavs back on the map, really nationally, put Cleveland on the map nationally at a time when Cleveland didn't have a whole ton of a lot going on, right? Other than LeBron. So I think for that we should be grateful. And listen, I don't know anybody that's as good at 41 as they were at 21, 22, 23 years old. I mean, athletically, it's going to happen. You're going to see the decline. I don't think it's fair to say, he's not good anymore. I mean, of course he's not as good as he was, in his mid-20s. I get that. But still, I think, like I said, 2 of the top 3 runs of Cavs basketball ever are solely put on LeBron's shoulders. And I think we should be grateful for that. I know people have their opinions about LeBron, and I've seen all the LeBaby, LeBum, whatever, the comments on social media, but I don't know. I think some of it's unfounded. I think, we're looking at a top 3 player of all time, no matter where you stand. I mean, I think you have to give him, you got to give him his flowers there, right? Like you got to give the guy credit. I don't know. I think it'd be fun. It'd be a cool way for him to end his career. I don't necessarily think he's the difference maker as far as a finals run. Maybe he's that veteran presence that brings guys together in the locker room and I don't know, psychologically, mentally, whatever. I don't know if he could do that or not, but I don't think he's going to go out there and physically do what he did against the Warriors and will them to wins along the way and beat these super teams or whatever. But I think it'd be kind of cool to see him back here to finish his career out. I mean, why not?
Yeah, and I'm more open to the idea of LeBron signing here in the offseason than giving up assets. I mean, I'd love to make a finals push this year. But if he wants to come back and have one final run as a Cavalier, 1-2 year contract, whatever, and just finish it out with the Cavs, sure. I mean, as long as Donovan's cool with it. This is Donovan Mitchell's team, and as long as Donovan Mitchell's cool with it,
Yeah.
then I don't see any issue with it. I mean, to your point, Chad, I mean, the only NBA championship is led by LeBron James on the floor, and Kyrie Irving obviously had a big part of that as well, hitting the game-winning shot. But LeBron made Cleveland a destination where guys like even Dwayne Wade near the end of the second run in Cleveland wanted to come here and play. So,
yeah, I mean, would they have ever gotten to the finals if LeBron hadn't come back that second time? They never, ever, ever, ever would have gotten past. I don't think they ever would have even gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals. And one thing, you can put this comment up if you want. I'll put it up. David says he's a cancer, not a leader. His own team hates him. And I will give you this, David. I mean, there are some issues sometimes. Right now, the Buss family is. Yeah, I mean, okay, I will give you that. I don't know. I don't think he's coming to Cleveland to try to force Dan Gilbert into trading for his buddies Mike Miller or anything like that anymore. I don't think that's coming in. We'll bring Kevin Love back for a redo, right? No, I don't think that's going to happen this next time. But I think it's I don't know. I don't know. Comments.
Yeah,
David really doesn't like LeBron, and that's okay. You don't have to like LeBron. But I just think that you have to recognize that 2 of the top 3 runs in Cavs history are, like I said, pretty much solely because of LeBron James. And it's okay to you take the good with the bad. And it's okay to mention the bad. I don't think we need to ignore the bad things about LeBron. There are some things that are, not so great, right? Like David's out, he's highlighted some of them here in the comments. But I don't know. The fact of the matter is he started his career here, brought a championship to the city. We all celebrated that. We didn't go out to the parade and go, we're not celebrating. LeBron's a bum. I don't care about the championship. But we were all very happy when he brought us the championship. So I think it's okay to as long as it, like I said, it can't cost the Cavs too much. It can't disrupt chemistry. Like you said, Donovan Mitchell would have to be okay with it because this is Donovan Mitchell's team. He can't immediately make it LeBron's team. It can't be that anymore. He's going to have to be okay with being like one of a secondary cast of characters and, just to be just help, I guess, for the starters for the core 4. But if that's okay, then sure.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick. He's on board with K-Love. Well, all right.
Okay.
As long as you're a lot of time with Kevin Love,
All right, David. You know what? We appreciate you, man. And you know what? As long as K-Love, he's awesome, man. I mean, I know the end of the Cavaliers run, fans here weren't thrilled with him and his effort, I guess. But imagine, put yourself in his shoes. He just watched LeBron and Kyrie leave, and he's sitting there holding the bags. And I mean, Ty Lue, and Damon Jones getting soup thrown at him by J.R. Smith. I mean, because it was just a lot of dysfunction, to use the term from the Cleveland Browns. But they've coined that word.
Dysfunction. That's not my building, right? That's not Berea. All right.
And so 129-99, the Cavs did defeat the Lakers. Just want to let them know for all the Cavs and Lakers fans out there, Cavs did defeat them. Leading the Lakers in points tonight was Luka Doncic, 29 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 12 of 20 from the floor, and hit 3 threes. Donovan Mitchell leading the way for the Cavaliers, 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 9 of 21 from the floor. Jalen Tyson, really exciting. 20.6 rebounds, 6 assists, 8 of 15 from the floor. Also hit 3 threes, him and Donovan both. Cavs handled this one pretty handily, right? 30-point victory. So I'm excited about Jalen Tyson too, Chad. I'm excited to see what Jalen Tyson can do as he continues to grow into like this wing player that the Cavs drafted. This is a homegrown guy. And this is a guy they took in the first round and at the end of the first round, and it's worked out so far. So I'm excited there.
First round pick. It's been so long. It's so weird.
Yeah. And David says kind of like what I was thinking. And David, Isaac Okoro, I'll read the comment here first. Tyson is who we wanted Okoro to be. Isaac Okoro was one of my favorite Cavaliers of the last 10 years. Defensively sound and offensively just never got it together, it seemed like. But he seems like he's doing pretty well. I believe he's over in Chicago now, so I think he's doing pretty well over there.
Yeah, they tried to fit him into a pocket that he didn't fit into. I think they tried to make him a player that he wasn't necessarily ever going to be. The thought was great, and it was fun to see if he was going to progress or not. But not quite the same situation with Evan Mobley, because Evan Mobley's obviously a pretty good player, but I think Evan Mobley's in that same like we're waiting for him to take that big leap forward, right? And it just hasn't quite happened yet to make it Evan Mobley's team, but it's still Donovan Mitchell's team. And I don't know when that torch gets passed. There's been a lot of discussion. Do you have to separate him and Jared Allen? I don't know. Evan Mobley just seems like a quiet, nice, unassuming kid. Maybe he just doesn't have that killer instinct to go out and make it his team. I feel like that's some of it too. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's interesting, Chad. I know you have to probably skedaddle here. With that being said, I'm gonna have you sign off, let the people know where they can find you here on the Inside Edge Network. And then we're gonna take a quick pause. I'll come back and I'll put a bow on the day for the Inside Edge Network. We'll talk about Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. But Chad, let the people know where they can find you here on the Inside Edge Network.
Yeah, and I want to say real quick, by the time it's all said and done, the network has put in at least at this point, we're getting overtime. It's an 8-hour day. That's a full day of work. So that's pretty good, covering the Browns head coach stuff, whatever. Turned into a mess, but whatever. It always does. As far as me, you can find me, tomorrow night on Thursday Topics. I'll be right back here with Eli.
That's
Moon.
right.
I will be here for 2 hours, about 10 to 12, with just your Thursday recap. We'll talk about some other things. I'm sure we'll mention the Browns head coach search. I'm sure there will be some type of news. Hopefully we'll have a Jim Schwartz, Jimmy Haslam hug it out reunion going on, and we can talk about that. And then we can make sure.
Oh no, we may have lost Chad.
For Detroit Gemini that Myles Garrett and on my back. Yeah, we just want to make sure for Detroit Gemini that Miles Ward, Miles Ward. What am I doing? Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward are going to stay here. We want them to stay here. And then Friday night we'll be back in about 10 o'clock. We'll do the same thing. So just look for Eli Moon and myself every weeknight at 10. We'll recap your sports day, your Cleveland sports day first and foremost, and anything nationally that's going on out there. We'll get into that. Saturday morning, you can find me about 11 o'clock. I think we're going to try to go 11, 12 o'clock with TK Dandridge on illegal formation. And then Sunday, it is the first test drive for a little show where we're going to call, it was the NFL, the Cleveland Browns and NFL pregame show, right here on the Inside Edge Network. Going forward and after the Super Bowl, but this Sunday, because there is no football, test run of the.
Oh, we lost you, Chad. I think we lost you.
Am I gone again?
You went to say the name, and you left the people on a cliffhanger. You said, and it's going to be called the.
They don't want me to promote. That's it. That's what it is. Somebody is back there hitting the button. They don't want me to promote. No, it's going to be a test run of the first Sunday sports show. We're going to call it the Sunday Sports Show. Same lineup, me, Ryan Mosser, and TK Dandridge. That'll be every Sunday about 11 o'clock. We'll try to come at you for about 2 hours. And when we get into that new format, just so you know, we'll hit local headlines. We'll hit some national headlines. And then each of us are going to try to bring a topic to the show on that Sunday. So that'll be another one. You don't want to miss that. It could be sports. It could be just something real world. We don't know yet. We'll see how that evolves. But definitely you want to check that out on Sundays. Just tune in like you have been every Sunday at about 11. And we'll have the Sunday Sports Show for you. And I think that'll be a fun show. That's going to be a fun way to switch gears and talk about something a little bit different on Sundays. So
I love it. And I appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for all your help with the coverage today of the Cleveland Browns and their head coaching search the last 2 days, Monday, Tuesday. And we will we'll regroup and get back here tomorrow, Thursday Topics here on the Inside Edge Network, 2 hours, and we'll talk about a plethora of topics. I'm very excited for that. But you go take care of business. Yes. Everybody go follow Chad Bryan at Real Chad Bryan. Chad, thank you again. Make sure you check them out this weekend and every weekend moving forward, and of course Thursdays and everything in between. So we're gonna take a quick pause. When we come back, I'm gonna close the show out with Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's finally time that he moves on from the Milwaukee Bucks. We're gonna discuss what this means for the NBA, the Eastern Conference, and more importantly, Giannis and the legacy. There's always talks of when they want out. What does the legacy mean? So with that being said, we'll have a conversation and we'll put a bow on this thing. Thanks again to Chad. I'm Eli Moon. And once again, this is the Inside Edge Network. We'll be back right after this. Okay. And welcome back to the Inside Edge Network. And it's just me, Eli Moon here. Chad Bryan did have to depart here just a segment early to take care of some things. We will see him tomorrow for Thursday Topics here on the Inside Edge Network at 10 p.m. Eastern time till about midnight or a little bit after. We're not like on cable television. They're not gonna cut us off right at the hour, So with that being said, we will have Side Hustle Wrestling Podcast also up at 8 o'clock. They're going to be from 8 o'clock to 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. Side Hustle Wrestling Podcast. Double A Anthony Alford and Kyle Cornell, who you guys saw, if you watched the stream earlier, had me cracking up just discussing the Browns head coaching search and the personality test and the essays and everything like that. So those guys will be going over the Royal Rumble coming up this Saturday. If you're a wrestling fan, Royal Rumble this Saturday afternoon in Saudi Arabia. I'll be watching. I'm a wrestling fan, so it'll be exciting. And I'm going to listen to what the fellas have to say tomorrow. So I'm excited. Very, very excited. Double A Anthony Alford, Kyle Cornell, Side Hustle Wrestling Podcast, 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern time here on the Inside Edge Network tomorrow. So follow the Inside Edge Net on all socials. With that being said, I am Eli Moon. Again, this is the final segment of the day here for the Inside Edge Network. Thank you again for everybody tuning in. We started at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Talked about the Cleveland Browns hiring Todd Monken as their next head coach. We carried that coverage for 7.5 hours and truly could not have done it without you tuning in and supporting us and listening in. So thank you to everybody on the Inside Edge Network for jumping on and being available and giving great insight. We had everybody, actually, I believe, on the network on at some point today with Jersey Chasers having their show right after our coverage. So just amazing. And we're going to put a bow on this thing. We've been using that term a lot recently, but we're going to put a bow on this thing. We're going to talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yes, the Milwaukee Bucks superstar, NBA champion, finals MVP. And really, there's been one home for Giannis Antetokounmpo since he's been an NBA player. It's been the Milwaukee Bucks. He wasn't always this great when he first came over to the NBA. And obviously, we've seen him blossom into the superstar he is. NBA champion, finals MVP, and a homegrown talent. Well, we just talked about LeBron James, right? We just talked about LeBron James and him being with the Cavaliers, being, the kid from Akron who went to be the star in Cleveland, and how we all felt in Cleveland when LeBron decided to move on. It was tough. And then LeBron came back. He won the championship. And I think that's why we're so open to having a conversation about LeBron James coming back to Cleveland, right? I personally would be okay with it. Not as much if we're giving up a ton of assets, like me and Chad kind of talked about, more so signing in the offseason. Do I think he would help with a finals run right now? Yes. I think anybody that thinks LeBron James right now wouldn't help, leadership-wise and on the floor, I just think is mistaken, unfortunately, for them. It's LeBron James at 41 is producing better numbers than guys in their 20s right now. And it would be a complete refresh for him. He'd get to finish potentially his career in the city that he started in. So that makes me think of Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then it makes me think of what this means for legacies. We talk all the time, legacy. What does legacy mean when it comes to these NBA superstars? Does that mean you have to stay at your spot you've been the entire time? The location that got you, you got your first NBA opportunity there. Do you have to stay there? Or does winning an NBA championship make it okay to depart from your city and it's not a bad look? Again, I want to give the credit to ESPN's Shams Charania with Giannis and Bucks open to trade discussions. Both sides, based off reports and the words they're using to describe how they want the trade request, both sides are really just trying to do this civilly. Nobody's throwing anybody under the bus. Nobody's trying to look like the bad guy. And I get it. You can't really think of a time, I guess there's on the floor things where, Giannis shows an aggressive side and some people think, maybe he's too aggressive. The social media talks all the time. But as far as the character and who he is and what he brings to the NBA, Giannis Antetokounmpo is that guy. And he has been that guy for Milwaukee. like I said, he brought the championship to Milwaukee, something that wasn't thought about for Bucks fans really in a long time. There's discussions, and you look at the betting odds, not telling anybody to bet out there, but if you look at the betting odds, the next regular season minute played after the trade deadline for Giannis Antetokounmpo, this is from DraftKings, Milwaukee Bucks at plus 120, but then after that, plus 400, tied as the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks. We've heard discussion of the New York Knicks obviously wanting a superstar. They wanted Donovan Mitchell. When the Cleveland Cavaliers eventually made the trade for Donovan and brought him here to Cleveland, the big talk was, well, why didn't the Knicks get him? He wanted to be a Knick. He wanted to be in New York. Now it seems like the New York Knicks are going to potentially get their guy in Giannis Antetokounmpo. They have a very talented squad over there in New York that they've built up. A lot of Villanova guys at one point, but led by Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns. You add a Giannis Antetokounmpo to that mix, depending on what you have to give up, it really could be the player that gets them to where they're trying to get to, the finals, and ultimately win the finals. Obviously, as a Cavaliers fan, I'd love him to be here. But you start thinking, what is the price on Giannis Antetokounmpo? And ultimately, that's the only thing you really weigh out. There's not any, okay, is he going to disrupt the energy here? No. Is he going to play very well here? More than likely, yeah. Can we get the contracts to line up to where he can get to Cleveland? Or anywhere. Any of these teams are thinking that. Because the second apron has made it so difficult for these teams to make trades. We were literally discussing a few weeks ago on Thursday Topics about how Trae Young went to Washington. He went to the Wizards in a trade that included the package return was CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. And I love CJ McCollum, but that just wouldn't have been a real thing 5-6 years ago. Heck, even a few years ago. Trae Young would have probably at least welcomed back one first-round pick for the Atlanta Hawks. And we live in a world now, an NBA world, where what is the return for Giannis Antetokounmpo if you're the Milwaukee Bucks? To keep it Cleveland here for just a moment, the Cavs are the only team that's over the second apron right now. Dan Gilbert, the Cavaliers owner, is not shy of spending money, especially if he feels like, and my guy AA Anthony Alvarez brought this up on our show Main Event on Sundays in the evening. So check that out. But he brought up the point that, Dan Gilbert is not opposed to spending money if he believes that whatever rendition of the roster can win, can go win the finals. We're in 2026. Cleveland's last championship and only NBA championship is 2016. We just talked about bringing LeBron in. I think the Cavs, if they're going to entertain that, why wouldn't they entertain a Giannis to Cleveland discussion? And the only thing that stops them is the second apron. Do you try to get creative, include Darius Garland, who's been injured more as of late over the last few years? And we all love Darius Garland here, but maybe him and Jared Allen or some other assets are what you got to move to get Giannis here. Because I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me. When you look at Donovan Mitchell and Giannis Antetokounmpo on the same team, it's a team that can win, a duo that can win an NBA championship, or at least get there out of the Eastern Conference, especially in a year now where Jason Tatum, not with the Boston Celtics, I get it, the Celtics are still keeping afloat, but we're talking playoffs when stars step up, and they're not going to have Jason Tatum. You see what the Pacers are struggling with without Tyrese Halliburton. This is a year where if the Cavs were to make a move for Giannis, it really could elevate them to making that run they were trying to make last year as the 1 seed. Now, what this means for like a New York Knicks team, obviously the same thing. The Knicks are having a good year so far. They have made strong postseason runs. And really, New York's been wanting their star. I don't know what that really means at the end of the day, because you have Jalen Brunson there who has embraced New York, is a damn good player, and has really wore, his heart on his sleeve for the city. Like I said, embrace New York. Yeah, you have guys there in New York, Karl Anthony Towns. You're not lacking star power. It just, they want the superstar in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And if you're Giannis, you won your NBA championship in Milwaukee. It's been some time since then, right? Against the Phoenix Suns. You're not getting any younger. So if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, you look at this and say, okay, if I can get to New York, if I can get to Cleveland, if I can get to one of these contenders in the Western Conference even, at age 31, he'll be 32 next December, or this December. Welcome to 2026, everybody. He's not getting any younger. Probably has another 5 to 6 really strong years. And that's me just being confident in the physical ability of Giannis. He's never been the guy who's going to extend his career by his shooting prowess or anything like that. He's a dominant player, a dominant force. Like, really, truly, not the same player, but the closest thing we've seen to a dominant force, I feel like, until Victor Wembanyama got into the league, But you talk about Shaq back in the day, that's like Giannis can scoop up 7, 8 rebounds in a quarter. I mean, he is a game changer. And not to mention what he brings to scoring-wise, passing the ball. He is an all-around guy. And I think that would be huge for any Eastern Conference team, any Western Conference team. This is the biggest news. It also, with conversations in Dallas of Anthony Davis wanting out, Ja Morant potentially wanting out in Memphis, or them looking to move on from Ja Morant more so. I think this is going to be the first domino to fall. And I think if when a Giannis trade happens, it could really open up conversations for Anthony Davis, Ja Morant, LeBron James, all these guys. Because this is what the NBA season's really been waiting on in terms of the trade market. It's really been a conversation for the last year or so. Is Giannis ready to move on and go to the big city? And that's a conversation we have all the time. A small market versus big market. And it seems like this time Giannis is going to go to a big market, at least based off what DraftKings is thinking. And again, not encouraging you to bet, but plus 400 odds for Miami and New York. Those are the front runners after Milwaukee. So it's interesting. It's interesting. What this means for his legacy, and I think we'll close with that, because that's how I started it, and then I kind of went down a rabbit hole here for a moment. But if we look at legacy, we talked about LeBron not winning the championship, having one finals appearance, leaving, but then coming back to win that championship, which makes, like I said, that third return potentially back to Cleveland exciting. We're welcoming him back. At least most Clevelanders are welcoming him back with open arms. Giannis Antetokounmpo, just like LeBron, but it took him 2 runs, brought a small market team in the Milwaukee Bucks an NBA championship. He has done nothing but handled this entire situation and his entire career with the Milwaukee Bucks with class. So I wonder what the conversation is going to look like when a trade potentially does go down. Is Milwaukee going to turn their backs and call Giannis a traitor, that he was never really with the Milwaukee Bucks this season and whatever? I guess ultimately, I don't know how we are supposed to judge these superstars anymore, is my whole point. I remember Cleveland being up in arms. I was a lot younger then, being up in arms when LeBron got traded. I remember certain superstars just being traded, leaving their teams, and it being a legacy killer. We talk about Kevin Durant all the time, about going to Golden State, going to the team that he lost to the year prior. And then he wins in Golden State. And a lot of people in the NBA world don't have as much love for Kevin Durant because of the way he got his rings. But at the end of the day, how do we judge these superstars? How do we base, is the Giannis situation different than Durant, than LeBron, than any of these other superstars because he's handled it with class? Or should we be frustrated as NBA fans that he wouldn't want to finish out his career in a small market, whatever? I think that, whatever. He won a championship, but now it's about building this legacy. He's still sitting at 1 championship at 31 years old. So, truly, I don't know where we're going to go with this. I hope it's Cleveland, but I think the bigger thing to talk about is, as it starts to heat up, as the trade deadline comes up, NBA All-Star break coming up, I think we're going to have a lot more conversations about Giannis and his legacy and whether he should stay in Milwaukee and try to bring one more there, because maybe 2 in Milwaukee means, 3-4, in other terms, whatever. They always talk, we talk about some championships sometimes mean more. Like a Cleveland championship, that one to us feels like it was 6 NBA championships. So, if you're Giannis, you try to figure this out, in a hypothetical and go win one more. And clearly he's ready to go somewhere where he can maybe go on a run here and win 2-3 in a row, whether it's New York, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's Miami. We'll see. So just wanted to bring that news as well and just give some of my thoughts. We'll have more thoughts, I'm sure, on that tomorrow on Thursday Topics with Chad Bryan. But once again, this is the Inside Edge Network. This concludes our coverage today in the last 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, last 3 days, of the Cleveland Browns head coaching search. The Cleveland Browns hired former Baltimore Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken as the new head coach of the team. So we covered that pretty extensively today. Then after that, we had Jersey Chasers with Autumn and Christie giving all their thoughts on the sports and entertainment news of the week. And that was great. So check that out. All of the videos from the last few days on our YouTube, on the Inside Edge Inside Edge Network, Inside Edge Net on the socials, all over TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So you can go back and check those out, see our thoughts. Everybody from the network had some opinion, some thoughts on what the Browns did today. And then, of course, Chad Bryan and I, we finished this thing out with some conversation about the Browns. But, of course, LeBron potentially coming back to Cleveland. Cavs took care of the Lakers tonight, 129-99. Donovan Mitchell, Luka Doncic, the leading scorers for their teams respectively, with 29 for Doncic and 25 for Donovan Mitchell. And then we talked about Giannis. And we're going to have probably a lot more conversation about Giannis Antetokounmpo, his legacy, where he goes, and what the Bucks do from here. You just traded Damian Lillard back to Portland, so he can go rehab there and more than likely finish his career in Portland, which is the right thing. Damian Lillard should definitely retire a Portland Trailblazer. But what do the Bucks do once they do move on from Giannis? And are they going to be able to even get the correct haul? Are they going to get the right haul? A value trade for their superstar? Or is the second apron going to cause a lot more problems than the NBA had expected when they introduced this not too long ago? So with that being said, for Chad Bryan, for everybody on the Inside Edge Network, I am Eli Moon. Thank you so much for everybody out there tuning in all day. We will be back tomorrow. Again, Side Hustle Wrestling Podcast with AA Anthony Alford and Kyle Cornell, 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live here on the Inside Edge Network. They'll be breaking down the Royal Rumble. They'll be breaking down Monday Night Raw and NXT that just happened the last few days, on Monday and Tuesday, and I'm excited to hear what the guys got to talk about. And then, of course, Chad Bryan and myself, Thursday Topics, 10 p.m. Eastern Time to about midnight on the East Coast, or a little bit after. And we got a lot of great weekend stuff coming up that we'll talk about tomorrow. Let's focus on tomorrow right now, Thursday, Side Hustle Wrestling Podcast, Thursday Topics, and then we'll get you geared up for the weekend. But we have everything you need, sports, entertainment, and mental health, everything in between. We are the source for everything you need. This is the Inside Edge Network. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Eli Moon, signing off for everybody with one more thank you, and have a great night, everybody.